There are people you meet who seem perfectly fine on the surface. They smile when they're supposed to smile. They talk just enough to blend in, and they know exactly how to say the right things to avoid being questioned. They move through life like shadows in daylight, visible, functional, but never fully present. These are the people who carry emotional scars you can't see, wounds stitched together by silence, shaped by experiences they can't or won't put into words. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the most gentle ones often carry the heaviest stories. It's strange how the world works that way. The ones who have been hurt the most are the ones who try the hardest not to hurt anyone else. Maybe it's because they know too well what pain feels like, or maybe it's because they never want to become the reason someone else breaks. But psychological scars don't behave the way physical scars do. They don't sit quietly on the skin for people to notice and ask about. They burrow inward, weaving themselves into the way a person thinks, the way they love, the way they react, the way they protect themselves from being seen. And because the world rewards those who appear strong, emotional scars become something people learn to hide with frightening skill. Some emotional wounds start early, long before a person even understands what trauma is. A child raised in a home filled with shouting or cold silence begins to learn that love is inconsistent, unstable, or conditional. They grow up thinking their needs are too much, that their feelings are inconvenient, that the safest way to exist is to stay small, quiet, invisible. And so they become experts at shrinking themselves, flinching at conflict, overthinking every word they say, apologizing for simply taking up space. They become adults who struggle to speak up, who fear disappointing others, who always expect the worst because the worst is what they were taught to prepare for. And long after they leave that environment, the patterns stay. Childhood ends, but the wounds remain. Others carry scars from relationships that broke them in ways nothing else ever has. The betrayal that came out of nowhere. The friend who turned into a stranger overnight. The lover who used their vulnerability as a weapon. Emotional scars often come from people you trusted the most, because pain from strangers hurts, but pain from someone you loved changes you. It rewires something inside you. It teaches you to search for warning signs that don't exist, to brace for heartbreak even in moments of safety. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to fear the very thing you crave the most: closeness.
Some people carry emotional scars because they spent years being the strong one for everyone else. They were the dependable friend, the reliable partner, the responsible sibling. They were the ones who never fell apart because they weren't allowed to. They had to hold everything together while pretending they didn't feel the weight. These people build emotional resilience the way others build muscle, by carrying more than they should. And after enough time, strength becomes a mask. The world praises them for being steady, capable, composed, but no one realizes how exhausting it is to always be okay. Emotional scars form not only from what hurt someone, but from what they were forced to endure alone. There are also people whose scars come from quieter battles, the ones who spent years fighting thoughts that whispered they weren't good enough, weren't lovable, weren't worthy of anything lasting. Self-doubt is a slow, corrosive poison. It doesn't wound you all at once, it erodes you over time. The constant fear of failure, the relentless pressure to prove themselves, the exhaustion of never feeling enough. These people walk through life carrying invisible weights: the fear of being abandoned, the guilt of taking up space, the shame of simply existing. And no one sees it because they've learned to hide it behind competence, humor, or perfectionism. Trauma doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in the form of overthinking, or in the way someone hesitates before speaking, or in how they freeze when someone raises their voice, or in how they keep saying it's fine, even when it's not. Emotional scars reveal themselves in subtle ways, the way someone flinches when touched unexpectedly, the way they struggle to make eye contact, the way they sabotage good things because they don't believe they deserve them. They become hyper-aware of people's moods, always scanning for signs of danger, always preparing for disappointment. Their minds become battlegrounds where fear and hope wage quiet wars. The most painful part of emotional scars is that people rarely take them seriously unless they're visible. Society understands a broken arm, but not a broken sense of self. People sympathize with physical injuries, but they often judge emotional ones as weakness. So, the wounded learn to act normal, because it's easier than trying to explain something they themselves barely understand. They smile, but you can feel the heaviness behind it. They laugh, but you can sense something fragile beneath the surface. They love carefully, cautiously, because their hearts remember what it cost them the last time they loved without fear.
There's a loneliness that comes with carrying invisible wounds. A loneliness made not from being alone, but from feeling unseen. Emotional scars change the way a person moves through the world. They become hyper-independent, refusing help because relying on others once led to pain. Or they become people-pleasers, bending themselves to meet expectations out of fear of being rejected. Or they withdraw altogether, choosing solitude because it feels safer than risking connection. And yet, deep down, they long for someone who notices their quiet battles without being told. But emotional scars aren't just reminders of pain, they're also proof of survival. Every person who carries them is someone who lived through something that could have broken them completely. They endured, even when they felt they couldn't. They learned to navigate life with wounds no one could see, and they kept going anyway. Strength doesn't always look like confidence. Sometimes it looks like simply existing after everything tried to destroy you. Healing these scars doesn't happen overnight. It takes unlearning years of fear, untangling patterns of self-blame, forgiving yourself for the ways you coped, and slowly allowing yourself to trust again. It's messy, uncomfortable, and slow, but it's possible. Because emotional scars never disappear, but they can transform. They can become reminders not of what hurt you, but of how far you've come. And maybe the most important truth is this: you don't need visible wounds for your pain to be valid. You don't need to prove that you've suffered to deserve compassion. You don't need to hide your scars to be worthy of being loved. The people who carry emotional wounds often grow into the most empathetic souls because they understand suffering in a way that softens them, deepens them, makes them human in the most beautiful way. And if you're one of those people, if you're carrying pain no one sees, I hope you remember this: your scars don't make you broken. They make you real. They make you awake. They make you someone who feels deeply because you've lived deeply. And there's nothing shameful about that. Maybe one day someone will look at you and finally see the things you've been hiding: the quiet strength, the resilience, the tenderness that survived despite everything. Maybe they'll see not the damage, but the beauty that grew from it. And maybe, slowly, you'll realize that the scars you carry don't make you unlovable. They make you human. And being human, even with all the messiness and pain and fragility, is enough.